in the Northeast in the Rust Belt, it's obvious to you guys that, we do a lot of brake lines and, our cars are rusty to say the least. Another thing we do a lot of is fuel line replacements on, older vehicles like this Chevy Equinox here. I don't know what year it is, probably like an 07-ish, somewhere's in there. But the guys developed a gas leak. So from the factory, these use like a part steel, part nylon line, gas line on it. It's a returnless fuel system, just one pressure line running up to the engine. Just wants it fixed, wants to try to get a little bit more time out of it. Car's getting kind of rough, so I'm going to show you how we go ahead and repair gas lines here when they come in the shop, and hopefully give you guys some ideas. So the first thing we do, obviously come under the car. That's wet. This is our problem child. This one here, this line here, is our pressure line, and we've got our vapor line, a couple brake lines here. It's my habit at this point usually to kind of see where things go, and we can see, like I said, this one here, you get this right, yeah, this outer one is our pressure line. So we see this fitting right there. That is the fitting for the evap line, so that one we don't have to really mess with. Our fuel line, however, let me get a light here. That goes, so I get to where I can show you guys this. Our fuel line goes, let me see, that goes right there, and then it goes across to another steel pipe and up to the engine. So that line comes there, all the way down, under here to where our actual leak is. Keeps kind of running down. Our evap line breaks off and goes to the canister, and then our pressure line goes right to here and then turns to nylon again, which is good. Why on earth they didn't do nylon all the way up, I don't know. I'm not the engineer, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to go ahead and fix this. So it's this line here. So the first thing I'm going to do is you got to get the mess over with. We're going to cut it. She's gonna probably dribble a little bit on us what's left. You probably want to put out your cigarette at this point, and any open flames. There's that. So we're gonna cut that. What I'm gonna do, being that we're gonna replace this all the way to the rear, is basically we're just gonna go through and rip this 3/8 line out of here. And that's more or less a process of trying to save these plastic clips, so we'll take and cut it as best we can with a pair of cutters. Sometimes you gotta just take little pieces. For a leaky line, it's pretty rigid. If it doesn't work, you can always use a cutting torch. And then we'll just work our way down through. We'll pop it out where we can. Some of them are too tight to the body to pop out, but we just gotta get this line out of here. So these plastic fittings are real tight to the body, so these ones definitely gotta cut these ones out. Pull them out. And then this quick connect back here will unhook that, obviously. Well, that one might pop up. These plastic little brackets here are sometimes super brittle. You try to save what you can. And this fitting, I'm not able to get it. This fitting's gonna be kind of a pain sometimes. I've got those two blue tabs you're supposed to pinch. Of course, it's probably full of dirt and rust and everything. Sometimes you get on it with a pair of hose pinch pliers and give you a little more purchase. Kind of a big tab to push in though. We can always fix it the old-fashioned way. There we go. Ooh, a little gas in the armpits. So what we gotta do next is we gotta find a place to start our repair from. If this line was really rotted all the way up to the engine, we go right to the engine and start from up there. But in this case, this line looks pretty good. I'm gonna see if we can't keep that bracket here from breaking. I don't know if I can hold it with a pair of line pinch pliers. Bend that thing down where we can work on it or not. Man, she's really stiff. So we'll just take a small line cutter because we need a nice clean end to start with here. Spin this on here. I'll get this cut off. This line cutter here is pretty well dull. Every time I use it, I tell myself I'm going to get a new blade for it, and then I put it back in the toolbox, and I never do. I'm sure we all got tools like that. So we just need to assist it with some pliers. There. Now we're cooking. All right, so once that's cut off clean, I like to take a little bit of emery cloth, and because this is essentially just surface rust, it's not that big, scaly, nasty, leak rust, and I want to clean this all off. A lot of times it's helpful if gas is still dribbling out of line, because then you can use it like a piece of wet sandpaper. But if not, we're gonna have to, because it plugs up your paper pretty quick, we'll have to spray it with Croil or something. Yeah, so we'll give her a little spritz here. We got a new piece of emery cloth. You'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. A lot of people might be questioning this. Kind of had to see that coming, didn't you? I mean, you got to clean off the old Croil. So we'll clean that off. You can see that line's really nice. I don't know how this will look on film, but this line is actually in really good shape. That's the reason I'm going here. If I even was suspicious of this line going anywhere in this car's lifetime, I would have changed the whole thing, but I know this repair will outlast the car. So we're gonna need in this instance, this is a Blue Point tool, but I think Master Tool is the one who makes it. I've had this thing for many years, got a lot of questions in one brake line video I did, why I don't own this tool. Well, I probably owned this tool since the 90s, when it first came out, and I'll show you what it does. So it's a hydraulic flaring tool, in the one brake line video I did, like I say, a lot of guys ask me, why don't you have this tool? Why don't you have this tool? And I commented quite a few of them that I did. It's just this tool, in my opinion, it's a fantastic tool. It makes beautiful, it does double flares, bubble flares. It makes the GM O-ring fittings for like the old throttle body stuff and power steering lines, but it also makes push connect fittings. Just like that one we took off in the back of this vehicle, it makes those metal push connect fittings. The reason I don't use this tool very much making brake lines is because it's humongous and it's very inconvenient. And that's just the bottom line. I mean, this tool is 3 times the size of a brake flaring tool. Yes, it makes nice flares, but it's big, it's inconvenient, it's slow, you have to change out dies. So that's why I don't use it. Like I said, I've had this since probably the late 90s. I remember buying it. I've had it a long time, obviously you can tell by the kit. I use it a lot. It's a fantastic tool. The only upgrade they've had since then is the GM transmission cooler lines, which I just bought that die for it the other day. I don't know, it was like 60 bucks or something. So that's the only advancement they've had with this kit that I know of, that I've seen. So yeah, as soon as I seen they had one more die set available, I bought that. But what we're going to be doing is what they call the push connect. So we're going to need this die here. That's going to go into tool, and then this is the forming device, and that'll go in there. We crank it down, we'll tighten it up, we'll pump it. It'll put a little push connect on there, and then we'll run front to back with our nylon line and be out of here in no time. So that is kind of the rundown on that. So I'm gonna get this tool all set up here for us. So I put the die in there, and then we gotta take and crank this all the way back out. And the reason that I clean that up is because we're gonna press a die over that, and if there's any rust on it, or anything, even if there's a little burr here, your die gets stuck and it's a huge pain to get it off. So to do this, I'm gonna have to kind of do this upside down, so you guys aren't really gonna see it that well. But essentially you push this through until the line is even with the end of the die. And then we're gonna take and tighten this up. We're kind of holding everything level here. You know, so like I say, if you're under the car trying to do this on a brake line, it's just a pain in the neck. That's all there is to it. We gotta kind of shove the die to the back of the holder here. It's just, in my opinion, it's a lot to do for a simple brake line. In a situation like this, it's your only option. You know, I mean, it's a fantastic tool. So we'll tighten that down, and then I usually give the line a spritz of the good stuff, whatever you got in your hand. In this case, we're using Croil. Probably could pick something better as a lube. But then we'll stick our die in the tool here. Then we run it in until it hits. It's probably close enough. We'll close our valve, and then we pump it. Now we're gonna have to go in further. You don't have much hydraulic ram on it, so you've got to kind of take it most of the way you can mechanically. All right, then we'll pump it, and you'll feel it. You'll feel it have some resistance. And my advice is, when it stops, just stop. Don't give it that extra pump. You know, like get on here and just give it the beans. Because you'll see our die is stuck in there now. So I'll back it out a little ways, and it's my trick, hopefully, to get under here with a screwdriver, and you get a little pop, and your die comes out. That's what we want. There she goes the rest of the way. If you give it that extra squeeze, quite often that die will be stuck on that line so hard, it's really difficult to get out. Okay, so now we should have, if all went well, a perfect push connect on here. This will save us a ton of time as far as replacing gas lines. There it is. So we've got this perfect push connect. Hopefully you guys can see that there. So that's just like a like a Ford or GM, any type of push connect. That's a really handy flare to be able to make. One of the main reasons I bought this tool, besides the GM bell flares. So that is a fantastic tool for that purpose. Like I say, Master Cool, I believe, is the company that makes it. So I'll get this thing. Should need this. Well, we might need this in the end, so we'll just kind of keep it out here. So now we've seen that kit, what we need to do next is, like I said, we're going to replace it with this nylon line. And I'm going to use this, of all things, this Dorman kit. Now, 95% of the stuff Dorman makes is absolute crap. This tool is pretty decent. I've had this for many years. I have no idea how many. To the point where, like, this piece here is wore out. They don't sell this separate. At least they told me they didn't sell this separate, so I'm not going to buy a whole kit to replace it. I just got to go online sometime and find a new gun to put things back together. But maybe now that Dorman watches my channel, maybe it'll change their mind. But at any rate, this was a pretty good tool. I've actually used it enough where I've wore it out. I've actually broke some of these dies that hold it together. Those I was able to buy separate, but evidently this caulk gun looking unit here, you can't. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a piece of nylon line, we're gonna stick it in this die. This is just standard 3/8 nylon line. You can pick this up any parts store. You know, well, at least around here, Napa, Advance, they all sell it. It's all same brand, it's all Dorman. Comes in 25-foot rolls. So stick that in there, I usually let it stick out just a little bit because, like I say, this tool is broke, so makes this task a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. They do make some benchtop models of these tools for putting together nylon line. I've seen those, I've thought about buying some of those, but more often than not, I have to use this tool up underneath the car to put, you know, press fittings into nylon lines and stuff. So we've got that there. And I completely did this backwards because I'm making a video. Let me stick this on here where it belongs. We got our line on the end where it belongs. If you're pressing two lines together, you run your line in from the back side, then you can push two lines together. It comes in 2 die sets. We'll probably use this tool in more videos. And then I'm just gonna use a standard 3/8 nylon line to 3/8 steel line, you know, quick connect. This is a pretty familiar connection. It's got this little die here that goes onto the front of your tool. We'll take the little plastic piece out of the center. We'll stick this on our tool. This will allow us to push it in. And then I have found, has been my experience, we'll get her lined up here. We'll give her a little spritz of lube. We'll use like some fluid film here. These things still made a mess. And then we got to squeeze. Technically, you know, if you just use this tool, you know, you kept squeezing it, it would go together. I have to push it up against something solid actually to make this work. So I just push it up against the edge of my vise. So that pushes that line in. And then all we do is take the die out, or take it out of the die, and then we'll have, you know, essentially a factory type fitting. We'll go right up underneath and we'll clip it right onto our steel line, or bend that back up where it needs to be. So wipe this off. So there is your factory line with a quick connect. So we take this and we'll clip it on that steel line and be good to go. Then we'll take all this, which is, you know, the same OD as 3/8 steel line. We can run it right through the factory holders. And on the other end, we'll put a quick connect. We'll hook those 2 lines together and Dunsky. So what I want to do is I'm going to stick my line up here just kind of loosely. I just kind of want to see about approximately how much line I'm going to need. I'm going to cut off about 6 inches more than what I need. And it's best if you cut this with something really sharp. You know, side cutters, they tend to just kink the line like when we cut it. I mean, you can use them if your side cutters are sharp. Mine are pretty well whipped. But it's best if you use like a nice sharp pair of scissors. Scissor type tools, or even a razor blade is probably the best. So now that I've cut off more than I need, what I'm going to do is I'd like to thread it through all of our connections, particularly these ones in the back that we actually have to, you know, like thread it through. So these ones we can click it in. So what we'll do is the best option is to thread it through these rear ones. Get her pushed through. There. So I'll feed that through, because these are the hardest 2 to get into. And then we'll go back through and we'll just take and click it in these ones and head up forward with it. Then we'll get up here. What we can do, we'll just take this. I should be able to click this right on there. A little short on mine. Tell you what, sometimes it's easier to take the white lock out of it. Stick the white lock over. There we go, that's clicked on there now. I'll get something to stick underneath here. Oh gosh, you guys can't see anything. Oh, no thunder. So, I'll show you what I did. So basically I stuck the white lock on first. And yeah, you get your white lock clicked up on there. Then you can take it and click your line on. Like I said, I'll stick something under here, you know, screwdriver handle or something. We'll bend that back up, so that's where that needs to be. And that light is bright. And bend that up where that needs to be. And we'll straighten out our line and we'll finish hooking up in the back. So stick a screwdriver handle under there. Oops. If we can. Pull that line down a little bit so we can get rid of that factory bend there. We need to man, that stuff is rigid. Push that back up. That looks pretty good. It's tweaked out just a little, but we'll just we'll leave it. It looks like it lays in there nice and all that. So yeah, let's keep moving. So what we'll do, like right here, like where the gas line's kind of floppy, I'll just take a zip tie. Run one zip line, tie around the outside, then run just another one here in the center, and this will keep the lines from rubbing together. Just take it right back here to this bend. That and that. Trim off your tails. That'll look good. If you don't like the looks of them, you know, you can always, you know, flip them up around so the tails are on top and in the middle, but frankly, nobody ever comes into their car. Usually. Kind of poke them up out of the way. There, looks nice and neat. You know, we can do that again back here. We've got this little hump. More or less just to keep the line from jiggling around here. There. Just like that. So in the back of the car where it hooks up to the other fuel line, you got a couple options. We can cut it. We can cut that quick connect off, and we can use a barb that comes in the fuel line kit where you can buy these 3/8 barbs, and we'll push, you know, nylon piece here, permanent connection. End of story. You can also use a 3/8 nylon to nylon compression fitting if you want to use that, and then that'll give you the ability to take it apart at a later date. So there's a couple options there. What I'm going to do, I just took a piece of 3/8 NICOP. We're going to take and put this in our tool. We're going to push a quick connect on this end. We're going to cut it off, make a push connect on that end, essentially making a little double push connect. And then I'm just going to stick it between the two push connects, just click it together. That way we can leave the factory line right alone, and this won't rust, and then nobody, you know, we don't ever have to worry, you know, wow, what if I have to pull the fuel tank? You know, just as easy. We have the tool to do it, so. Maybe we can demonstrate this a little bit better out here in the open. We'll stick our die in there. Sometimes a little difficult to show this under the car, particularly when I've, you know, when I got the light in the way and nobody can see anything. So we'll stick it in there, like I say, till the line is flush. Tighten her down. I'm gonna unscrew it. Yep. Take our, like I said, our 3/8 die. Get it unscrewed. Make sure your line is clean, you know, particularly if you're using an old line. Like we could use a piece of the old line we cut off, but it's a lot easier to deal with. Let me just take and screw this in. Alright, so there's that. Tighten the valve down, and now we just give it a few pumps till it stops. Like I say, it doesn't really feel like it's doing anything. Don't give it that extra big squeeze. Use this to force our die out. She pops out the rest way. If you don't pop your die out before you unhook this, man, it can be a real pain to get off the line. I've had them stuck on there pretty good, so learn from my experience. Voila, so now we have ourselves one fancy push connect. Like I said, we'll probably cut this off. We need to figure out, I try to keep them the minimum length I can just because I think they look better. So you can stick your die on there and you can find out that we need to cut it off like somewhere around here. So I'll mark that with a Sharpie, get this cut off, and I'll pop another push connect on here. One tip I would say, if you're taking a piece of 3/8 line off of some bulk tubing, I cut that off kind of cruddy. I'm gonna have to trim that a little bit. If you're taking a piece off some bulk tubing, try to straighten out the 3/8 line prior to cutting it off. So like, you know, if you're gonna cut off like a 6-inch piece, try to get the straightest section as you can before you chop it off. Because once you cut off like a little 6-inch piece, man, this stuff is, that looks better. It's super easy to, or once you cut it off, it's super hard to bend. You can manipulate it, you know, like on a 25-foot roll, much easier. I think they possibly sell these connections also. I'm not 100% positive on that. Whoa, hang on, where'd you go? So, you know, you may do some poking there. I'm glad I cut this a little long. Always cut it a little long, give yourself some room for error or crappy cuts like I just did. So. Ha! Fantastic. That's it. That's all there is to it. Like I say, the screwdriver bit, screwdriver / pry bar, stick it right in there. 1-2 barbecue, you know. And then we've got a custom made connection. There she is, the old double donger. So we'll take another 3/8, you know, 3/8 fitting here. When this is under the car, you know, we'll click that on. So that'll allow us to unclip that. And then this side should, hopefully we got enough room here. Might have just made a rookie mistake making it a little too short. That should clip right onto our factory one. And then we just have this little bit of exposed material here, which, like I say, will never rust. So we can see if this is gonna be long enough, hopefully. Yep, it is. So it clips on and you can see, I'll move you around here, but we've got about, you know, a 1/2 inch of material exposed. So what we need to do next, that's gonna lie right there. This line's gonna come down. We got everything else from here, you know, forward where we want it. So this will be our last connection. Cut the line. That's it, you own it, baby. So we'll unhook that. We'll get this hooked back up to our tool. We'll press it in and move on. Stick that in our 3/8 section. Like I say, someday I gotta get online and find myself a new die here, or a new tool to press these together. I had one way back before this. I used to have this orange one. It looked like a caulk gun. I don't remember what company made that. That's still at my dad's shop. I think he still uses that, perhaps. So this, see if we can't squeeze it together by hand, kind of assist it. So like I say, it's pretty well wore out, but I have made, I couldn't even, you know, probably thousands of feet of line and fittings and stuff. So this works good. So we'll stick that on there, click it together. We'll put a zip tie here. Maybe we'll put a zip tie here, you know, on these brake lines or something, just to keep this, you know, just keep it from rattling around. That's the thing with nylon line. It's fantastic. It does not like abrasion and it does not like heat. So those are two things to keep in mind. We've got a special heat sleeve that I stick over them, like if it runs anywhere it's near an exhaust. And you just try to keep it from rubbing. You know, you don't want this down here rubbing. It's plastic. It won't take that very long. So we'll grab some wire ties and we're done. So it's pretty handy. I mean, I remember back when we made, you know, we used to have to make gas line out of steel line. And that sucked. This was never any fun. So let's see here. So we'll just put a wire tie around that. Clip that off. And then maybe we'll do another one right here, and I think we'll be in good shape. I'll go get a second one to keep that spaced out. And then that will pretty much, it'll outlast this car because this line will never ever rust. It'll never go bad so long as we keep it away from, you know, anything hot or anything that can rub through it. And it still gives us the ability to, you know, remove this fitting if we ever have to. I don't know if you have to remove the fuel pump in these or not, or if that, you know, being all-wheel drive, that might be accessible through the trunk. But yeah, now we don't have to worry about this. So we'll fill these connections full of fluid film, and that's it. We'll do the same thing on this line here. We'll spray the good part of this line with fluid film. This one's steel. This one will still continue to corrode, but if we spray her down, it'll be good. Get a little bit on this evap line. Of course, we'll know when the evap line's bad at some point. They always rust out at these holders. You know, all these brackets. That's where they always rot out because that's what holds all the crap. So we'll douche that line down, try to buy them some time on that, and this is probably the lifetime repair here. So that's it, folks. That's a pretty run-of-the-mill standard, you know, gas line replacement that we would do here. You know, you do, I don't know, 1 week, something like that. You know, cars rust out, but more and more come in OEM with nylon or stainless. So that's, you know, that's always good to see. When this evap line rots out, if it ever does, I replace that the same way. I do have 5/16, 3/8, and 1/4 inch that I use in the nylon, depending on the situation and what it is. Sometimes like the evaps will have like these funky like 45-degree fittings. What's cool about the nylon is if you're using them, you can just take, you know, like where we press that together on that barb section, let's say you screw it up, it's not a big deal. Just take a razor blade, slit the line, take your fitting back, and, you know, start over. You know, a lot of times you can reuse the OE nylon press-in fittings too. So I've done that. If they've got a, you know, like a special or unique fitting, you know, we'll reuse that. You know, because sometimes like on the Buicks and stuff where it's all steel and then you've got like a little short section of nylon, what I'll do is I'll just cut the fitting out and then I'll just run nylon all the way up to the front, or, you know, wherever a good section is. You know, you do what you got to do. Every situation's different depending on the amount of rust under the car and stuff like that. I've never had a nylon repair job come back for, you know, for being ruptured or fitting blown off or anything like that. They've always been, you know, really successful, and so that's why I've always opted to do that. I wish we could do brake lines like that. But the NiCop definitely helps. The nylon is the best invention I think that was ever made. You know, of course, Ford has used nylon lines since, you know, like the 80s. You see them like on the old Grand Marquis and stuff, and Cadillacs, and, you know, big stickers all over, you know, not repairable and stuff. So it's nice when this plastic line stuff came out, so we could actually fix those. Of course, even before this came out, you know, way back, I used to use, you know, 3/8 line, like off, you know, airline fittings and stuff off tractor trailers, because I worked in a truck shop. So, you know, we were using, you know, steel and nylon compression fittings, you know, long before this kit came out, and, you know, nylon airline, which seemed to work. It's essentially the same stuff as this, except it had like a liner in it. You know, may or may not have been good, but all those cars are long gone. They're in the crusher. I think that's about it. This can be done without the Master Cool set, because I think that's probably like a $500 or $600, you know, flare fitting thing. I don't know what they cost anymore. I think back when I bought that, it was like $400, you know, back then. So I don't know what they cost now, but they make a ton of different adapters to go from steel to nylon. There's lots of options. Like up here, you could have cut this off and use a steel to nylon compression fitting. You know, put your nylon on, go back here, nylon to nylon compression fitting, and done. So you do not need that fancy tool to do this. I use it simply because I can just use, you know, 2 fittings, which, you know, you would anyways. It's quick connect. For me, it's quick and easy and fun. And I don't have to screw around with compression fittings, which for some reason I fumble with. I never get along with them. That's it. Google+, Facebook, check us out there. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done that and you want to stay up to date with all the repairs that we roll out. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.